First question is for Councilmember John Bergman. You've served the great city of Apple Valley for many years. Thank you. You're supposed to serve all the residents of the city. What are you doing to reach out to our diverse population?
Well, I think one of the biggest things we've been accomplished in the last couple of years is the Night to Unite. That is where we as elected officials and staff members in the community get together. I firmly believe I've got oodles of photos where the diversity is impeccable. They're enthused to see us. They like the community that they live in. And it was really them coming to our city because of what we provide in this city. I think it's because of the education system, it's because of the community itself, and what our past predecessors and our current predecessors do for making this community what it is today.
Thank you. Councilmember Melander, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing Apple Valley over the next 20 years?
Thank you, Scott, and thanks to the Chamber for organizing this today. We came to Apple Valley in '89 from Minneapolis, saw it as a chance to build a life here. We've both been active, my wife Gina and I, in the community in a lot of ways. It's been touched on several times already with the changing demographics, not just of Apple Valley, but of the country. And to incorporate and respond to the needs of the population as the population changes. There are, for instance, the park board issue that we're dealing with now. We're not deciding as a council what you guys want. We're actively seeking input for what the citizens want, and that's the important thing. Pickleball, for instance, has been extremely popular. So, am I in favor of pickleball? If you want it, you bet your butt I am. It's not our job to dictate, and I think it's one of the things that is a misconception from the general populace, is how much direction, how much leeway we really have for what shows up and what happens here. A lot of these things are dictated by law, federal law, for instance, what we need to do when it comes to businesses coming to Apple Valley. The chicken thing was brought up. If I want to open up a chicken stand, I don't want the city of Apple Valley saying I can't do that. So a lot of the stuff that we do is responsive and shaping, guiding, rather than dictating. I've always said I don't like being told what to do, and I really don't like being told what to think.
Thank you. Ben Baglio. A city's draw is sometimes measured by its restaurants, entertainment, nightlife. Do you feel that Apple Valley has done enough to support food and beverage providers, brew pubs, nightlife, and entertainment for our children?
Thanks for that question, and thanks for the Chamber for hosting this panel. So first off, I graduated from Apple Valley in 2009, Apple Valley High School in 2009, and my wife is Northeast Minneapolis, born and raised, but I dragged her down here, and we bought a house down here, and so obviously I think the quality of life drew us down here and loving this community. I would say, though, that it does feel like we aren't always, using the levers at the city level that we have to make things like nightlife and drawing the next generation of Apple Valley residents to our city necessarily a priority, right? Like current ordinance, we don't have food trucks, right? Like that's, the city has acted to make food trucks prohibited in the city. I think we're not using mixed-use development to a real degree to put things like retail and housing in the same place. That creates community hubs and walkable communities and accessible communities, especially for seniors. And so I think there's things that we could be doing through the levers that we have. Yes, the federal government dictates some of the things, or state law dictates things that city can do, but it certainly hasn't, set a ceiling federal government dictates what cities should do and must do, but doesn't dictate what they can do. And so leadership at the local level can go beyond just the bare minimum to, make sure we're leveraging what we have in place, as far as our zoning ordinance, so that way we're protecting our environment and making this a place that young people want to live and thrive and work and play. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Bergman, what do you feel the biggest challenge facing Apple Valley today? What is it?
The biggest challenge today, to continue the path that we're on right now to continue to make this city a great city. I think, and I will thank the chamber, but in the last 2.5 years, because of what went on in the world, I believe the chamber, the businesses, and the community as a whole, along with the school district, have reached out to each other and made it a better place. I think there's more communication that we've done as a group and as the city has done. We at times get told that we are not out in the community, and I will wholeheartedly disagree with every statement that is made in regards to that. I believe that behind the scenes, people don't get to see what elected officials do or what the staff does, and why we have elected officials that have stayed around, why we have businesses that keep coming back to this community, and why we have staff members that have been around a long time is because of how we all work together.
Thank you. Councilmember Melander, what should Apple Valley do to provide a better job opportunity for people in the city and also provide fairly priced housing for its residents?
Thank you for that question. When I was on the Planning Commission for a long time here in Apple Valley, I championed the preservation of industrial zoning and business uses as opposed to the wave of residential and retail development that the city's experienced. I'm proud of that record. I've encouraged business uses. I have extensive experience with business, and I don't think that's a negative thing at any level. Smart business, I admire smart business. I've seen smart business, I've seen dumb business. Folks have a right to compete and to succeed. Again,
Housing.
I'm sorry?
Housing, fair price housing.
For housing, you say?
Yeah.
Boy, housing has been a big issue. We have built a lot of housing around Apple Valley. If you look anything south of around 42, there's a lot of housing. There's a lot of it that's built with an affordable component to it. There are various incentives for that. The developers are incentivized for creating that. The city has been behind that. The city does not have the resources nor the citizens the appetite for the taxes necessary to support city-funded affordable housing. We can be behind it. We can have zoning for density uses. There's a level of density that the citizens will not just the citizens, but the market will accept. And there's a level of density that it will resist. And that's what the developers in concert with the city have come up with.
Thank you. Candidate Baglio, what skills do you possess that will make you a great council member?
Yeah, so my day job, I serve as the director of the Governor's Workforce Development Board at the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. So our board is the largest state board in the country. It can be a little bit challenging sometimes, but every state workforce board in the country is made up of majority of business folks, and then we also have labor, education partners, community-based organizations, and others that really are focused around workforce development. And I think given the time that we're in today, where economic development and workforce development should be forefront of mind for our elected officials, I think it's really important that at the local level, we're, serving as a convener and a collaborator and bringing folks together to meet these current workforce demands and issues that we have. I mean, we can be bringing in our school districts and the county, which has a bunch of workforce development funds and infrastructure already, and partnering more with them. What I am hearing, though, is, Apple Valley isn't always playing in the sandbox as well as with those other local governments, and so I think we need to be doing more of that. I think focusing on workforce and economic development, supporting small businesses in the process here in Apple Valley, giving them an opportunity to maybe, work with high school students, give them job experience while also supporting a small business here in the city. There's a plethora of federal funds available for workforce and economic development dollars that suburban communities across the country are taking a stab at. Apple Valley is not, and that requires local leaders to step up and do the work, bring people to the table, and go after those funds. I have the experience to do that. I actually just helped lead an effort at DEED to bring $10 million in federal funding back to Minnesota to train and support folks who are exiting the federal prison system and looking to reenter their communities in the workforce. It's experience I'd like to bring to the table locally. Thanks.
Thank you. Now we get to ask each other questions. We're going to start with Councilmember John Bergman. Why don't you ask Ben Baglio a question?
Thanks, Scott. Ben, the question I have, because as you've just stated, your workforce, and you want a workforce in Apple Valley, I certainly assume. The question I have for you, and I have more than one, but I'll ask this one. On March 11th of 2022, you posted that there is more that can be done at the city level to give a voice to our community. Also, there are better ways to utilize your existing community advisory boards to bring more residents' voice to the table where decisions are made. Why did you not volunteer to be on one of these advisory boards in the last 2 years after you ran 2 years ago? There was an opening on the Planning Commission. There was actually an opening on the City Council. You could have put your name in and interviewed it, but you never applied. Why did you not be engaged when you tell your constituents that the public needs to be engaged when you did not step up to the plate for the city?
Yeah, so it's an interesting characterization of that. On the first end of that, I did not throw my hat in the ring for the city council race because I felt that we had just had an election and there was another candidate, Linda Garrett Johnson, who had very decisively and clearly and very almost narrowly, almost made it onto the council herself. So to me, knowing she was going to throw her hat in the ring, I thought she deserved that seat. No offense to you, Tom, but I thought it was her seat that she should have been appointed to. So I didn't want to muddy the waters. I also believe that we need to be doing more to, have a little bit more diverse city council, and Linda was making that, at the forefront of her campaign. I clearly wasn't an issue for you guys, but that was a priority of mine. On the other front, several of us city council candidates had applied to advisory boards in the past and weren't even contacted for an interview. So throwing my hat in the ring when I kind of know I'm already going to the Wolves was maybe not the tactic that I thought I would take. So good question.
Thank you. Councilmember Melander, why don't you ask John Bergman a question?
John, you've been around a long time on city council. Is there a point at which you think you might be getting stale?
No, and thanks for that question. I've done it 19 years. Every year at the beginning of the year, I check myself at the front door. Every year, as past elected officials have in the current council that I participate with, every year is a new recharge and a recheck of what was missing from the previous year, and we move forward. I believe wholeheartedly that my energized battery is constantly on. I definitely like the way the city is participating in things outside of this community. We as elected officials get an opportunity to be either appointed or volunteer for positions outside of this city. And I've always said to my colleagues, that's where we do our best work, because that work comes back to the community 100%.
Thank you. Ben Baglio, take one of the candidates, ask them both a question as they're both.
I actually had the same question for both, so maybe we'll start with Councilmember Bergman.
You're going to go together, so
right.
Both of you will respond to this question.
All right, so statistics show that BIPOC Minnesotans disproportionately face greater barriers to education and economic opportunity than white Minnesotans. With 1 in 4 Apple Valley residents identifying as a person of color, my question's this: how do you think systemic racism impacts our community, and what can city council members do to address it?
You want me to go? you go first. And then the junior.
Thanks for that, Ben. And I've been a big believer in equal opportunity. I mean, America's founded on equal opportunity. We've alluded to the diversity and the changing demographics of the state. It doesn't change the fact that there has to be a factor, a merit has to factor into decision making. I think that Apple Valley has open arm welcomed folks from different backgrounds. We have a large Somali component in the city. There's an increasing number of I think that the high school is at least a third folks non-white. I have seen personally no barriers towards folks, non-white folks of any kind. I certainly have no negative feelings towards them. I've worked with them in my capacity as a commercial real estate broker. I do a lot of tenant representation. I have worked with folks of every sexual orientation, religious background, business background. Equally, business owners, building owners, it makes no difference. Folks have a right to succeed here, and we should do our best to foster an environment that encourages folks to step out, step up, take a chance, and succeed.
Thank you, Tom.
To Ben's question to us is the education system I will stay away from because we have a phenomenal education system in 196, and that's their forte. As far as for a council, we promote it. We get to see it every day. I worked where I retired from. I had a diverse group that was unbelievable. I live in a neighborhood that is very diverse, and I'm proud of it. I think that a lot of things, and I learned a lot, I guess, in my 19 years for going to the 19 Unite. We have that opportunity to go to all the neighborhoods, and it's unbelievable. And it's unbelievable to the fact that when the rest of the world sometimes is stereotyping, that we go in and we have a great time, and we have great conversation, and they look forward to the next time that we come.
Thank you. We've got a hard stop coming, so we are going to step into each candidate's opportunity to tell us about themselves and why we should vote for them for city council. We're going to begin with Ben Baglio.
Thank you, Tom, and thanks again to the Apple Valley Chamber for hosting this. This is our only public forum, so this is great. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. My parents were restaurant owners growing up, so they were proud members of the local chamber, which means I was like half raised in the back of a kitchen, but really grateful for what chambers and local businesses do too. And I also want to thank you two for your service. Like, it's not glamorous or to have a young punk like me taking shots at you, but like really appreciate what you guys do. I'm running for city council because I love this city and I care about what it looks like in 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now and beyond that. I'd like to see a little bit more thoughtfulness around land use in our city, which really I think requires us to overhaul our zoning ordinance to reflect the values and priorities of our community. We must be utilizing mixed-use development to create walkable communities and accessible communities for more residents. And we need to be doing more to protect our environment. Again, we're the only South Metro city without a sustainability plan or a commission, and you can't really, do a master plan without those components built in. Otherwise, it's not really covering everything when environment, natural resources are such a big part of what makes quality of life so important to us. I'd like to see in that plan the city provide tax breaks to homeowners and businesses that adopt voluntarily sustainable practices that protect our drinking water and our other natural resources. We rely on groundwater. While the reservoir does continue to fill, it isn't completely finite and certainly isn't something that we can just hands off and do nothing regulatory to protect the water. Finally, as a convener and collaborator, I'd just like to see the city doing more to bring together cross-sector partnerships and getting those going here on the local level a little bit more, being a better partner with our county and our school districts, and going after some of those federal dollars. Our current council could be going after those. That's millions and millions of dollars that they're just leaving on the table or leaving for Kansas or Missouri or whoever else. So, I think I just want to say too, my lid is in the back. My cell phone number, 651-402-4795. Feel free to call or reach out anytime. I love talking to folks. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Melander, tell us why we should vote for you.
Thanks, Scott. I have some literature in the back as well. Not everybody has seen that yet. I mailed some out, and I'm actually delivering most of them myself, so I'm limited how many miles I can put on these old feet every day. In terms of my background, I think I bring some unique qualifications to the seat of City Council. I spent 21 years volunteering on the Planning Commission, which is charged with land use, making good decisions about how our limited land is resourced, what sorts of things are built on it, guiding that, tweaking it, not dictating that. I have a master's in business administration that I earned going to 2 years of night school while I held on a full-time job and had a newborn baby. I worked hard. I volunteered for a lot of things over my life. I've donated 30 gallons of blood over the years. I've volunteered 1,500 hours for no compensation other than a feeling of doing right and giving back to the city and our community over the years. So I have a background in the workings of business, background in the workings of the functioning of government, how government operates, how we can efficiently do things at the city, an understanding of the limits of the city's power, and a desire to do things to make this a better place to live for all of us, equal opportunity to flourish here and a safe place to live.
Thank you. Councilmember John Bergman.
Thank you. And thanks to the chamber, thanks to the businesses that are in here, that all makes us a better place to live. The reason why to be elected, there's a lot of reasons. I've been elected for what, 5 terms by the residents. But again, I think it's what we've done as a city. We talk about wanting efficiencies or water efficiency with our Water Smart customer portal, where we can monitor and see where the leaks are and everything. We in the last year and a half, with that system in place, we had 16 million gallons of water savings. When it comes time for stormwater at every development, we look at that. Melander comes from the Planning Commission over 24 years. But a vigorous review of land use, and the runoff is definitely considered in that process. One thing that we could go on forever on this, but one thing this Orchard Place development west of town or east of town is a mixed business campus that brings new retailing and job opportunities to the residents. The planning of that 400 acres, which is almost down to about 200, is a unique city and property owner collaboration for a unique parcel. As the mayor stated earlier, there's other things that are coming to this property in medical and that, and we look forward to that. Those are on the table. Within 2 years at Orchard Place and nearby, an estimated 1.25 million square feet of business development is approved or planned, all with the interest of developing jobs far in advance of what the Met Council 2030 and 2040 estimates. I appreciate your time, and thanks for all the support you've given me over these years.
Thank you. These are candidates for City Council of Apple Valley. Please give them a big round of applause.